All right, you guys. So welcome back once again. You just saw me replacing the exhaust, and that also requires kind of flashing the ECU. So my plan right now is to take out the ECU and send it for flashing. So in order to get that ECU out, I'm gonna basically take the passenger seat or rear seat, if you have a seat call, that's gonna come out, and then we'll try to reach in. I'm gonna move the seat away. Let me show you what we have to remove or get out from there to. So first we got the rear seat out, then we're gonna get the rider seat out as well. So once again, all you do is basically pull it to the forward, basically towards the front of the bike, and it's gonna come out of these little tabs here, and then just pull it up. This will come out. Pull it up. So this is basically what you have. These two things are actually kind of sitting in these rubber grommets there. Once that is done, once again hold this and push it to the other side and then push it back. That's pretty much what you basically kind of just move it away. And once you do that, you're gonna see the back of the seat, that little plastic piece that is basically in that particular screw that was, it's being held. So this is the seat, right? So you pull it up. So first pull it up, and then what you do is make sure you pull it up here. Let me set this. Yeah, and then all you do is basically just grab here, push it back, and then kind of take it out from the front, scoop it out. So that is your rider seat out. Now at this point, I'm also gonna go take this metal piece and put it away. So this is where that seat was sitting, and then this metal piece kind of kept it locked in its place. But anyway, so let's go ahead, try to see where our ECU is. I'm gonna get close here. All right, so the ECU is right here under this plastic piece. So let's try to get that one out. So I'm gonna take that, my little tools package. All right, so I'm gonna remove the tools from here, and as you can see, it's really just a flat plastic base or a cover that basically hides the ECU underneath. So in order to take these ones out, this is what we have. Looks like maybe 8 mm. This one here, 8 mm sockets. We'll try that. Then this looks like 4 mm hex bolts. So we'll have to take those ones out, and we need to move these plastic pieces out, and for that we also have to remove this piece here. And for these, we're looking at these 4 mm trim, or this fairing piece, which is basically kind of winglet in the rear. So anyway, so in order to get those out right here, so we have 1, 2, and then we've got like one screw here, and the same on the other side, and then we also have this plastic trim pieces that will come out. So let me see if I can get this any better. Okay, so I think this should be good. Let me go ahead and get the tools. So this is all the tool we're going to need. This is really just to push the plastic tabs out. This one here, we don't really need a screwdriver per se. Then we're gonna need a 8 mm socket, That is for the bolts, and then we're going to need the 4 mm hex socket, the Allen key. We will start with getting these bolts out on the top. So that's the 4 mm on the fairing. Let's go ahead and do that. And be careful, these do have a little plastic spacers, so don't lose them. We're going to use that, we will need it. All right, so we got the 2 from the back out, and two, 4, and then we've got 2 right here, these 2 if you see. So I'm gonna get those. All right, so the 6 of the screws are out. These and these are basically is ready to come out, except we still have this little plastic tab. So the technique to do this is like just gently, slowly push it in, and then kind of pick it up. And when we put this back, before we put it, we kind of push it back out, then it goes in place, and then we press on this. I'll show you when we reinstall it. Same thing we're going to do on the other side. So maybe the camera isn't showing, but this is the one that we're going to push a little bit. Just wait for that click, and then I'm going to pick it up. Once that is done, we will go ahead and carefully remove this piece here. Again, it is all plastic, so just be careful not to force anything too much, and that will probably end up breaking things. So there, as you can see, it did come out. It has 2 rubber grommet, and right here, let me show you guys. I need the camera to move. So as you can see, that's why I was saying you have to be careful. So this plastic piece, when it was sitting like this, those 2 holes basically lined up on these 2 plastic tabs. Just keep that in mind. I'm going to put the plastic trim aside, and let me mount the camera. So one side is out. Same exercise for the other side. Now I do want to make sure I pull the keys back out, and slowly do the same thing. And since this is actually tied to the, I want to say, the key housing, this side of this fairing, this piece, I'm not going to take this one out completely, but I still have to push and make sure that tab is detached from here. And almost, yeah. And I'm gonna pull this out. So this is the piece you want to get out of your way. So I'm going to leave this one here. As you can see, I hope you can. Let me actually show you guys what we're talking about. So on the left side, on the fairing, this is why we did not pull this all the way out. This is connected to this latch, and this is the rear seat lock. So all I did, I basically just kind of move it away and got those out of the way. The other thing we have after this is really kind of going into getting this piece here out, these 4 8 mm bolts. So you're going to take those out. Something to keep in mind here, you guys, there is a relay and this switch here. The orientation of this switch, keep that in mind. Don't move this around too much, and this relay as well. I think this is what detects how or how much the bike is leaning, and if somehow it gets kind of falls in or it's twisted or turned, it may create a problem later for you guys to start the engine. Let's go ahead, get this out. And I do see some thread lockers in this. There could be more than one reason why Kawasaki decided to put it. So that thread locker there could be to protect it from vibration and the bolts coming loose, because it is keeping ECU, basically the brain of the bike, in place. Or it could also be a way for them to detect, for the dealers to see that actually this area was opened, and that means maybe someone played with the ECU, and that has something to do with the warranty coverage. We go, all 4. I think from the screws and nuts and bolts point of view, that's all we had. Now let's very carefully, I'm gonna take this and take these relays out. I really don't know which or what these relays are for, but I'm gonna just move it away so we can take this piece completely. Yeah, I should just unplug this. Yeah, that's easier. So just push and pull, get this out of the way. And now we can see the ECU right here. This is the ECU, or the brain. Now the other thing that we have to do, these 2 bolts, if you can see here, they are kind of keeping this in place. So I'm going to try to move this latch out of the way to get access to this. Looks like this is also 8 mm. We just have to kind of get a screwdriver strong enough to pull this out of the way. It is tight. I don't think I have to move both of them. Just one should work, but I do feel this thing is really tight, and I can see these things they already looks like it's ready to slip. So I'm gonna have to be very careful getting those out, making sure it's not slipping. And so flips, yeah, flip head number 3 is what I'm hoping will work, but I will need to use the ratchet. So let me change this setup a little bit. And let's see, you can see once again this is Philip head number 3. I'm gonna have to push it down so it doesn't slip. Yeah, number 2 will cause it to kind of slip the head of this screw. Even this one here looks very risky. I don't know why they made it so soft. Anyway, I'm gonna try to take the other one out. There is no turning back from here. The other one is okay. Looks like the first number 2 that I used, that caused some issues, and that's probably might have really, I shouldn't have used that. So keep that in mind. It's number 3, not number 2. I'll have to find a better bolt for that area later. I'm sure I will find it at Home Depot or something. There it is. This also had a thread locker. So with that being said, I'm not going to take this one out. I'm going to leave it there. It's only loose enough for me to kind of twist this way to get access to these 2 bolts. And with the head being scratched like that, I don't want to risk kind of getting stuck. I will go to Home Depot or Ace Hardware, find another piece basically like this, and then maybe at that time I'll get this one out and put a better bolt than just something that strips that quick. Anyway, so we are good, but that is a good learning. Keep in mind it's Philip head number 3, and at the same time it's really soft, so be careful. Now going here, grabbed an extension. It is still 8 mm. All right, so this is what keeps the ECU in place. I'll have to take it out all the way. So what I'm seeing here is this thing here is sitting in this slot. So I'm not going to rip, I'm going to just push it to the side. Here, basically out of the way. It still doesn't want to come out, but I'm pretty sure this will allow the ECU to move and we can pull the ECU out. But before that, we have to disconnect the cables. Let's go ahead and disconnect the cables. I'm trying to see if there is any. All right, so let me show you guys what we have to do with the cable. So this piece here came out of this area to keep the cables, like this one here. Just remember, if that falls, you're gonna have to put that one back there. All right, so I got some light for you guys here just to show you how to get these cables disconnected, because if you break this, it's gonna get very expensive. And the other thing is, this locks in with the ECU, so you definitely don't want a broken connector which doesn't always which may get loose with a vibration and comes off, and then your bike basically dies, right? So in order to get this out, you will see a little notch right here and there's this little arrow. So we need to pull this to the other side, but right now it's locked. So I'm going to use this screwdriver. and I'm gonna push on this area here, and now if you can see so easily it just comes out. I'm gonna go all the way out, and then I'm gonna get this basically out of the way, and that's it. And when we connect this back, we do the same thing. So here, and at this point we also have our this little thing coming off. This is what was keeping this connector literally right here connected to ECU. So it's just that important that Kawasaki has 2 or 3 safety feature right here. So I'm gonna move this off out of the way. Same thing here. I'm gonna push this a little bit and get this out. I don't need the screwdriver anymore. And the other thing, maybe getting this piece out after you get the cable out would probably make more sense, but that's part of the learning, because when I'm pushing this, it's kind of whole thing is moving. You don't want that. That will be much easier anyway. So yeah, so went ahead, pull these two. If you can see, this is basically the piece of mechanism that keeps it in place, locked. So once I pull this, basically that's it. That is all that we have for the ECU here, and your ECU is all free to come out at this point. Just be careful, it's a little tight in there. So this is where this little piece was sitting, just like that, keeping them all in one place. But yeah, so there you go. Once you have, so yeah, so this is where this thing was. Once again, just make sure your connectors, this piece here, it's kind of, I'll put it back here so dust and all that doesn't get in. And after you pull the ECU out, you are good. This is what we need to send. I'm gonna pack these nicely, make sure these pins don't get damaged in the shipment. I'm gonna have to wrap this as well. Make sure these, I mean, they have the cables there. You won't be mixing things up, but that's pretty much all we have for getting the ECU out. You guys, I'm gonna get this flashed, and once it's back, I will show you guys when we do the reinstallation. That will wait for now. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Just a couple of notes here. As I said, make sure you're using a tool to get this out really carefully. Number 2, do this first. Get the cables disconnected first. That's going to make more sense. Number 2, here, be careful with these. These are really soft metal. I don't know why they have it, but anyway, so be careful with that. And number I think 3 or 4, so just be careful with your fairings and the tabs that they have on the sides here. And the other thing, these relays and these 3, I don't know which one specifically, but feels like this might be the one, and this one that kind of detects your lean on the bike. So if it is not kept the same orientation, or if you disconnect it while the battery is connected, it's going to start throwing error. And worst case, it will actually not turn on the engine, because that's the safety feature. If the bike goes down, it detects that the bike is actually on the ground, and it will kill the engine. It won't let you start the engine. So anyway, that's all for now. We'll see you guys again in a short bit, couple of days, when we do the work and finish this particular project here. All right, so the last piece of the puzzle in this particular mod, I just kind of sealed I had some foam, cut the pieces, put it in there, And then ECU is, I'm gonna put it in a Ziploc first with a list of mods and my asks with Mode Mafia to make that change. They kind of ask you to list down all the mods and changes you've done to the bike. I'm gonna put that in the Ziploc, and I'm gonna send it through FedEx. One quick note, guys, whoever you send it out to, whoever your favorite flashing services is or the tuner is, they recommend you take a note of all those numbers and the label for the part number that you have in there. Make sure you take a note or take a picture of those for your records, just in case if FedEx or USPS happens to lose your ECU, you will need that detail. Not every ECU for every bike is the same. Even if they are in the same model, same year, they might be different ECUs, different configurations. So those numbers in that label and the barcode that you see on the screen, that will be important. So just make sure you take a couple of pictures and you have all that information about the ECU. If something goes wrong, you can get a replacement over the eBay or from Kawasaki itself. So something to keep in mind. That's all. I will see you guys when this comes back. FedEx today delivery they received on Thursday, and they did turn it around the same day, shipped it, and the box just arrived. This is Friday, so literally from their end it didn't take more than a day to kind of get here. I know they received this on Thursday at 1 a.m. and Friday around 4 p.m. I have it back. I did pay for the expedited handling, by the way, so that has something to do with it as well. I did want it within the week, so I did get it, and I'm gonna go ahead and get it installed. I haven't taken it out of the box, but looks like they have the ECU, obviously, nicely wrapped in the bubble wrap, and we got some stickers as well, more Mafia. So we'll keep that, and looks like they sent me the note back, the list of mods that I had sent to them, and yeah, so really just the work that we've done so far, and this is what I wrote to them. Right, so this was so that is the piece of paper, and along with it they have also sent this little list of or checklist that tells what they have done. So they have optimized the fuel map, O2 sensor has been eliminated, top speed limiter has been removed, timing map has been optimized, exhaust servo eliminated, rev limiter set to 14300, all restrictions removed, and pair valve deleted. It does have some instructions, and I know I have to go in and get the O2 sensor unplugged or disconnected, so that will be the next step. We will go through that, and other than that we should be good. So here what you see on the screen right now, this is some instructions on getting rid of the check engine light and getting the O2 sensor unplugged. So we basically have to follow those, but yeah, that's pretty much it. We do have the ECU again, as I said. If you look at this, oh, they have one sticker here as well on the ECU. That's nice. I had this covered, so looks nice. This again, they did not take any time. They turned it around the same day they shipped it back. So this is pretty cool. It did cost me that $20 extra handling shipping, but I think it was definitely worth it. And in the note it does say must unplug, so I definitely have to go ahead and do that before we get the ECU installed and have it running. So let's get to work. All right, so I think you can see. So let's first we start here again, 4 mm Allen key, hex head, whatever you want to call it. We're gonna get that one out. I'm gonna do the same on the other side. And then 5 mm for this one here. And then back to 4 mm on this side, this one here. So just take a note, this one is a longer thread, like longer bolt, so don't mix it up. I'm going to keep it on the other side. Do the same thing for the other side. All right, so we got the screws out. Once you have those out, we're going to pull this away, just kind of to remember this has, I think, about 2 grommets, like the little pin or stud that goes into the rubber grommets. That's where it's holding it. So when you're pulling it away, just be careful and start slow from one side. So I'm gonna go do that. Here it looks like there is one, so I'm gonna just go in and reach in. So on this side there is no, I'll show you guys, give me, so I'm gonna keep going. Looks like there is one here, so I'm gonna pull that, and that's it. Let's see if we can get this out. Just be careful, this is all plastic, so you don't want to break. I just need to be careful, I don't want to. There we go. All right, so this thing is here, kind of locked in a little bit. These ones, if you can see these tabs, so that's what was kind of stuck on these, but it did come out. And as I said, there is one here and there is one here, and if you look into the body of the bike itself, there's one here and here. So for these ones, just kind of try to reach in, get as close to this as you can, and then pull it, versus just kind of from a distance. The chances of breaking it is higher. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same for the other side. Should be the same technique once again. Let me move the camera to that side. Let's do this again. So this is on the left side, same technique. I'm once again gonna just fill. There's one here. It's not really that tab. It's a little clip that's probably holding it in place. So I'm just kind of just be patient. It's again, this thing is plastic, so it can easily break. All right, so these pieces are out. Now for the next part, what we're going to do is, once again, We're going to take these bolts out. You can see this is for this top fairing piece right here. So we have 2 bolts, one on this side, one on the other. We're going to take that one out again, 4 mm. And this also is very loose. And this one doesn't have the washer, the plastic nylon washer, whatever. And same thing on the other side. I'm gonna get that one out. So same thing, even for the other side, no washer. Once that is done, this also has that little tab somewhere here, so I'm gonna be careful. Once again, if you can see my hand, I'm reaching in. This is where that thing is. So I'm trying to reach in and pull from there as close to that tab I can, so I don't snap it. And just like that, this piece comes out. So we're gonna keep it to the side. And now we have kind of completely exposed the gas tank here. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to remove this bolt here. So this is going to be 8 mm, and if you have an extension, or I think I don't need the extension here, but let me take this one out. Yeah, I don't need extension for that one. And this is what I was talking about, the first trim piece that came, it kind of holds. So you have to push it out of the way, and then you pull here, basically this, basically, and here to get it out of the tabs there. Anyway, back to this is through here. So I'm gonna get this one out. This is again 8 mm socket. It's not hex. Just keep that in mind. Let's go to the other side. So we do the same thing. Once again, 8 mm. Get that out of the way. So now, with this open here, trims out these, we are able to pull this up. This is the gas tank, if you can see. Now we can pull it. Let me go just a little bit further so we can show. I hope this is good. All right, I'm also going to try to look for something that I can wedge in between. I'm not going to remove the whole tank, but what I'm looking for really is kind of push this down a little bit right here, and I'm trying to just lift it enough, just a little bit, to get access to this plug here. And I'll bring the camera close, but I think this is enough room. But this is what we're talking about. I hope you can see, but this is the O2 sensor plug that we're gonna unplug or take out. All right, so I got some light. This is what we're looking at. So I'm gonna try to reach in and see the clip again, just like any other connectors. So this is actually, you guys, stuck in I think I would need a little more room. So let me try to see if I can lift this tank just a little bit more. All right, much better. I did find something to lift the tank just a little bit more. And this is what we have to get out from here. So this thing, or this particular connector, is basically connected to this little metal piece to keep it in place. I'm going to try to get this out of that metal piece first, so I have some extra room to work with it. Or let me see if I can go to the other side and just pull the connector. Looks like I can do that from here. All right, so this should work. That's it. So if you could see, this is the little tab on the other side, on basically this side, and all I did was kind of push the screwdriver and push that little pin out, and this came out right away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to still move it back and leave it right here. We're not going to use this connector, we just needed to unplug it, and that's it. So we move back. I'm going to drop the tank back in its place, basically, and we're going to put the all right, let's just line up everything the way it was, and we basically first start with this here, the 8mm. Just want to make sure I'm lining it. That's it. Once we align everything, we're gonna make sure it's all tight. So same thing on the other side. Make sure you're not cross-threading it. Looks like this particular nut, the 8mm, it's going straight into the piece of metal, into the tank. I don't know if there is a nut behind it welded, but I would be very careful kind of doing that piece. All right, so there, and let's go ahead, put these ones, the 5mm. So all right, so I got that in place. Now I'm gonna move to just getting this 5mm in place. Once again, I'm not gonna go all the way, not tighten it right now. I just want it to get in the place, and then all right, so that one is tight. I'm gonna make sure our 8mm socket here is tight all the way as well. Once again, as I said, I'm gonna be careful here, knowing that I did not see a bolt basically in the back, so maybe this is just going into the threaded metal that is part of the tank itself. All right, I accidentally kind of pulled it up a little too much, so I put it back in place. Now with that being done, let's go back and put the top piece from here for the fairing. Make sure you line it up correctly. Everything looks good, nothing is kind of pinching anywhere, it's all good. And once again, on this piece, the top piece of the fairing is, here is the two tabs. So I'm going to line it up and then push it down. So let's go do that. Aligned and pushed it. All right, it's in place. Then we go to getting the 4 mm's. And if you, as you are doing this, there are, these things are different sizes, so just make sure you know which one is coming from where. So these ones didn't have, if you remember, any washers, so I'm gonna go ahead and use that here. If you remember, when I was taking it out, it didn't feel tight enough, and but again, just make sure it's not over tight. These things are, again, very flimsy. I'm gonna go to the other side, get that same thing taken care on this side here. All right, that looks good. Now you're gonna go put this trim piece here. Remember, this and this, something to keep in mind. And along with it, make sure you are aligning these to kind of be stuck on under these here and this here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that. Once again, the way I do it, I first align these, try to push those in, but in this case I will have to kind of get this piece here, sorry, this piece here, make sure that is in this one here. So we go put that here. I'm gonna align that, push this in. Yes, I can see where this is going, so I'm gonna go ahead, push that one in as well. I'm gonna align these. So we gonna put that trim piece on the other side as well. Same thing, just make sure you know where those tabs are going and take your time to push it in first. Things are lining correctly. Don't be in any rush. It didn't give me any or too much trouble, I have to say, but there is definitely a trick. You have to make sure this piece is lined up correctly. All right, we are good. I'm gonna go ahead and put the screws here. This is the longer one for the front, if you remember. So let's go ahead and do that. And then the smaller version without the washers or the nylon washer, that's going to go in the back. Sensors getting unplugged. We didn't have to remove it because the header is still the stock header that I have, and there was no need to take that whole thing out. I'm just going to leave it there in case later when we, as I said in my earlier video when I was removing the servo, if we do decide we want to go back to stock, I don't think that will happen, but just in case, it's there. We can plug it back. We can get the ECU flashed to stock and reactivate the O2 sensor. Same thing for the back. So that's all for that part. All right, so if you're just trying to get an idea of how to get the O2 sensor disconnected, this is it. You can stop the video here. All right, we're all set. So if you remember, I mentioned this particular piece that is really on the top, very top of the ECU and all. I put it back in place like this, but now we need to move it to the side. I'm gonna just leave it here. This is where the ECU will go. I'm gonna have to get that screw. Now this screw, I try to get it out. I ended up stripping it. This thing is actually put out with red Loctite. It's really tight in there, and that screw is just super weak. Literally using a screwdriver, I still ended up kind of stripping it. So what I have done to kind of replace this is the size if you guys are looking at replacing it. So I went to Home Depot and I got these two screws to replace that. All right, so let's go ahead and get the ECU back in its place. As you can see, this is where the ECU would go. This is just gonna go slide in. This is the side that goes down, faces down. All right, so let's go ahead and get this in place. I'm gonna just wiggle this thing in, make sure it goes in all the way and sits in place the way it's supposed to. All right, that looks good. We take this metal piece and slide it where it used to be. This is how it's going to go. This is onto the front of the bike basically. So let's see if we can get that to line up here, right there, just like that. I'm going to go ahead and take the two bolts and just trying to get this in place so I can all right. So looks like it is in place. Now let's go ahead and put the cables back in. If you remember, once again, you can't go wrong with it. Just line it up. Make sure they go in the socket. And once you're lining it up, not sure if you can see it. Let's see if you can. Yep. So once you line up, push it in all the way, and this is gonna lock, snap in place, make a little sound, and then I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing for the other side. Same thing, and that little sound. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead, make sure this thing is completely tight without destroying it. All right, so this thing is in place now. And for this side, I'm not gonna use the stock screw because they are really bad. This thing came out, but it was still ready to get stripped. I did go to Home Depot and I got the replacement. These are stainless steel ones, much better. Stock one, they did have some thread locker. I'm gonna go ahead and put the thread locker, this one as well. I think that needs to be tight because this is for the passenger seat. and the passenger seat is kind of latched onto it, so they don't want that coming off or getting loose. It will cause the passenger seat to kind of run away, and that's not a good thing if someone is sitting on the seat. So I can see why Kawasaki did that, but this is definitely not good. So anyway, I did find the right size, so we are good. Sorry about that. All right, so we put this in place. This thing is here where it's supposed to be. Now we're gonna go ahead and get this in place. If you remember, we do have the connectors here. Let me move this up a little right here. So we're gonna go ahead. Get the connectors in. All right, and then slowly get this pushed in place. It does have a little, this piece here goes into the rubber cover that the ECU has, so make sure this goes in there. It needs to sit in place correctly, and that's it. So these are the bolts, 4 bolts that we had, so we're going to put those back. Once again, these are 8 mm, so make sure nothing is kind of getting pinched or anything. Everything is in place and kind of away from any kind of screws, bolts. Don't go too crazy. These are again all made of plastic. All right, that's it. We good there. Now we're gonna go back to putting the side fairings. All right, so we're good here. This looks good. We've connected the connectors back here and also onto the ECU. I checked, everything looks good. I made sure these cables are not being pinched anywhere in any way. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put the tail cover. So that will be this piece. This is going to be pretty easy. Just remember, these were the things that we pushed in place or we pulled it out. So the way it's going to work, we're going to just line this up and try to push it. So this will actually, if you can see these little holes here, this is where that's going to go. This one here actually, and this, so this is where we'll try to line this up. And this piece here will sit on this piece here, the plastic, if you can see my finger. Now here. So I'm going to start from here, this side, and line everything in place. Make sure it sits the way it should, and which it does. All right. So this is lining up, you guys, very well. And along with it, we can also see these holes are lining up nicely. So once that is done, we are going to put the piece that we have here. So remember, on the left side we never took it out completely, we just left this hanging because of the lock, I want to say. But now it's our turn to go in and get this one as well. And the way this will sit, let me see if I can. All right, this should do it. All right, so once this is in place, we are going to bring this piece here. And if you remember, on this side, on the left side, we never took it out. The way this is going to sit is really align these two holes for this one here on the front of the bike. And for the back, we're going to try to bring it in. If you can see, let me move this. So we're going to try to line this up with right here, and this one here, this is where we're trying to, and in the process we will also push this in place. There is a tab or little push pin that's going to grab this. Just make sure this lines up. I'm going to go down and see it's in place. So one side looks like it's done, but the other side did not. So let's try this one more time. This side is going to be tricky just a little, given that, you know, we haven't been able to take it out completely, but it should not be too difficult. So what I'm trying to do here, right here, is a little stud that will need to go into one of the grommets on this plastic piece, and that's what I'm trying to align. And we have the lock right here. The cable for the lock is getting in the way for me, so I'm just trying to get in the place where I can bring this. Let's try to do this. I'm going to remove this for now. I'm going to push it in so I can see where the cable is going, and let's kind of get this in place right here. That's where it needs to be. And then I'm gonna go line this up right here. And we should be, yep, now this time it will work. I'm actually lined up on this side. Let's go do it in the back as well. So and that's it. All right, it was a little tricky because that cable for the latch here was getting in the way, but once you kind of move that out of the way, you're good. Let's go ahead and do that same thing for the other side. Make sure this piece of plastic, it's sitting in its place where it's supposed to be, and it's flush, and it is going to be on the outer side. Just line up the notches in place. You will not have any issues. This will go. All right, so we take the tail again. This will kind of lock in here first in the end, and make sure on both sides you're lining up onto the notches that's there. And that's it. Once you have that, you need to make sure this outer piece is pushed in place. Same thing for the other side. If you can see, this is what I'm talking about. These two will be pushed against this one here. They do have a little, let me actually move the camera. So if you can see, this is what I'm talking about, these two here. When I push this, I need to, this way, I need to line this piece, that end basically, here with this little screw or bolt, wherever it goes. I'm going to line this one up here, and then I'll try and make sure I'm using those push pins or the studs, whatever you want to call it. I can never get that correct, I guess. But yeah, that's what you do. You just push it in place. This looks nice and looks like it's all done. All right, as you can see, all the places it's kind of lining up. That's what we want. Let's go ahead and put the screws back. We have one here. This is 4 mm. We've got one here. Looks like there are 2 different sizes, so I'm going to use the longer ones there in the back, because there are some spacers here, so I'm sure the longer ones are going to be used there. Then there are 2 more longer ones. Same logic here. I'm going to use those 2 longer ones here. Make sure all the connectors are basically in place correctly before you go too far. I'm always paranoid about that. And then the last 2 screws that we have, basically the smaller size, those are for really this end here. They are all 4 mm hex. And if you remember from the beginning, when we took this out, we also had 2 plastic rivets, these ones here. So these ones will basically hold this middle and outer piece together right here. So I hope I'm not out of the frame, but this is where, so on both sides, that's the one. What you do is, when you pull it out, this is how it's going to look like. Basically, this is how it was when it came out. Make sure you push it out like that before you use it. So we do that. You push it in here, and then you push it just enough that it sits flush. It doesn't go in or doesn't stays out. It has to basically sit very flushed. Same thing here. I'm going to do that and just kind of push it, and you will hear the click. So all of this is all good. We're going to use the 4 mm This time I'm going to use the extension and the 4mm socket to get this piece done. Really, this is all of the major task. So we made sure this was tight, got all of this is in place. Sorry about that, I'll get to that at some point. But everything looks really nice, very tight and snug the way it should be. I don't see anything pinching or getting stuck, getting in the way in any way. But we'll put the seat back. So this was 5 mm. I don't remember if yeah, this is good. All right, so let's see what we have on the instructions again. Next, literally kind of we removed the O2 sensor, basically unplugged it, and then we've got the ECU in place. We connected it correctly, and we're gonna turn it on. And when we turn it on, because of the O2 sensor, it's gonna throw basically some error codes. So we'll have to kind of reset the bike's ECU here. So what it says is turn key on for 10 seconds, then turn key off for 10 seconds. Then we start the motorcycle and we'll let it idle, and then turn your motorcycle off again, wait for 10 seconds, and motorcycle is ready to go. Let's go ahead and get that done. And before I go any further, I'm actually going to go ahead and remove the. So one last thing, you guys, this piece actually sits right here to protect the ECU cable getting kind of scratched or rubbing against this metal piece. So make sure if this falls off, you put it back in. This will be important. You don't want these cables kind of rubbing and then getting scratched up. And this is on both sides. In my case, it fell off literally from both sides. Just kind of push it back in place and make sure it's there in your bike as well. As the instruction says, let's go ahead, turn the key on for 10 seconds. 10. Going to turn off. You saw everything flashing. That's what we're trying to resolve here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Still see the flash. We're going to go ahead and start the engine. For that, let me go ahead and change it to neutral first. We went ahead and we stopped it, turned it off, and it says we need to wait for 10 seconds and motorcycle will be ready to go. All right, you all, thank you once again for kind of staying with me through this process. This thing is done. I still see a little bit of issue with those flashing lights and all that, but other than that, we are done. I'm gonna take it out for a ride, see how that goes, how it feels. They have done a lot of work, a lot of changes onto the ECU. So hopefully this will be a completely different ride. But that's all for now. Once again, thank you very much for stopping by, and I'll see you guys in the next video. If you guys have any questions, it was a fairly simple task. It does look like there's a lot going on, but you take one piece at a time, one step at a time. Involves the 3 steps, right? Taking it out, sending it, getting it back in, unplugging the O2 sensor. But yeah, it wasn't too bad. Easy, very little amount of tool is required or effort is required. So this is good. But still, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me, and I'll help you in any way I can answer your questions. Thank you again for being with me, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks again, and don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, all that. All right, see you guys.